Summary of The Dilemmas of Family Wealth. Insights on Succession, Cohesion, and Legacy. By Judy Martel. Squandered fortunes. Family fortunes are overwhelmingly often made by one generation and lost by the next. One study of 3,250 wealthy families found that, in the course of a decade, 70% did not transfer any wealth from one generation to the next. While the popular conception of wealth management often involves squads of lawyers and accountants, the study found that the lack of professional estate planning caused only 3% of the families in the study to lose their fortunes. The prevailing reason was that family members did not trust one another or founders failed to state their intentions. Every family has three potential types of capital: financial, land, securities, cash, human, other family members, and intellectual, family knowledge. These areas are intertwined, so a cohesive family with common goals can use its accumulated knowledge to build wealth. When a family works in unity for a common purpose over time, it can increase each type of capital and build a legacy. But, when one form of capital starts to decline, that drop can have a cascade effect on the other types. If human and intellectual capital begins to decline, relatives often panic and decide to cash out of the family business. They forget that their money is a tool to sustain the family's heritage and purpose. When the family starts to function poorly or not at all, its fortune invariably dwindles. Family fortunes can disappear for 8 main reasons. 1. A family is unable to gain financial security by selling the business, because it doesn't want to part with it. 2. A family sells its business, and can't maintain a link to create future family wealth. 3. The family's wealth is not sufficient to support all its members. 4. The family wants to build a public legacy. 5. The family falters over nuptial agreements and income inequalities. 6. Children and grandchildren are not motivated enough to earn a living. 7. The family cannot devise mutually equitable wealth distribution plans. 8. The family funds a charity, creating tension among relatives who consider it a drain. Despite these problems, a family can prosper over generations and carry out philanthropy. John D. Rockefeller, the U.S.'s first billionaire, let his son use the family fortune for charity. The father established the Rockefeller Foundation in 1913 with $180 million, and the son became its first president, all in the family. Family companies are the world's most common form of business. In North America, family businesses account for 80% of all enterprises. In the UK, families own 75%. Planning to turn an ongoing business over to the next generation is a critical part of building a legacy. Succession planning is hard because emotional issues can cloud rational judgment, while nepotism and favoritism can dominate decision-making. Sometimes, a founder may not want to hand the business down, may wish to postpone that decision, may not have anything else to do, or may not trust the next generation to manage the business. Henry Ford's only son, Edsel, joined the car company reluctantly, becoming president at age 25. He disliked the responsibility, developed ulcers, and died at age 49. Edsel's son took over the business and kept it in the family. Family firms do not survive the transfer to a second generation when the relatives are not qualified for their jobs and use the business selfishly, or when the firm does not adapt to changing markets. Problems can occur if a family business lacks good communication, objective hiring and compensation, training programs, and a formal performance evaluation process. Without these policies, the business runs according to the founder's temperament. Tensions build and emotions surface. Well-designed succession plans spell out expectations. If the designated successor fails to reach specified goals, the evaluation committee can make objective decisions. The right to run the family business must be earned, not bestowed. Similarly, family members should be taught to work together. Start by working on a charitable cause, and allow members of the second generation to enter the business only when they show an interest and demonstrate some talent. Family matters are a major concern since the health of any family business is closely tied to how well the overall family functions. To gauge a family business, ask whether the relatives understand its mission, how they resolve internal conflicts, whether outside advice is available, and how much time they spend together outside of work. Try to get second-generation successors to agree on a partnership plan before they enter the business. Though it is not a legal document, this plan clarifies expectations and provides a framework for discussing sensitive issues. Serious problems can result when siblings lack written, formal agreements and responsibilities. Robert and Peter Mondavi, the sons of Charles Krug, founder of the Krug Wine Company, feuded for 50 years. Robert was forced out of the company in 1965 and formed the Mondavi Winery, intending to leave the business to his sons. They had other plans, and Robert's company went public in 1993. Peter Mondavi's Charles Krug Winery continues under his sons. Doing the math. When a family divides its fortune among descendants, a large sum can get depleted quickly. If a family founder has a $100 million business and 4 children, and each child has 4 children, the fortune gets split 16 ways. To avoid draining its primary capital source, the entire family must create and abide by a mutual spending plan, however generous, that is based on earnings, not sale of assets, and that accounts for inflation and taxes. If each child decides to withdraw his or her money from the main account, the total capital decreases faster than if the family kept it together. One way a family business can remain intact, while generating new sources of income, is by making intrafamily loans. This method of reinvesting in itself can be considered a form of venture capitalism, but with more lenient terms. Operationally, a committee that reports to the Family Council should administer the loans. This committee can set loans terms, eligibility and payback milestones. The committee should also consider the ramifications if the loan is not repaid or if a family member's business fails. Family conflict also may arise when a new member enters the family through marriage and becomes an heir. This gets more complicated if the new spouse is not well liked, comes from a different social stratum or has children from a previous marriage. To reduce tensions, the couple should examine their attitudes toward money, consider a prenuptial agreement, and understand that men and women have different attitudes about money. First, men commonly have more money than women, who may tend to look to men to provide shelter and security. When women come into money, they often become more insecure, as psychologist Carl Jung found during his research into personality differences between the genders. Different forces also influence people at certain life stages, regardless of their wealth. Young people seek meaningful work and then focus on relationships. They are also more self-conscious about money than older people. Wealthier couples can sign pre- or post-nuptial agreements to avoid future problems. While they can choose among many formal and informal approaches, the key is to communicate and to find the right agreement to meet an individual couple's emotional and financial needs. In some cases, the solution is to establish a trust for the spouse and the children. When a wide wealth gap separates the partners, the person with less money must be very self-confident and intellectually strong to keep emotional reactions in check. Hire estate planners and attorneys to craft a pre- or post-nuptial agreement. This is particularly important in Washington, California, Arizona, Idaho, Louisiana, New Mexico, Nevada, Texas and Wisconsin, which have community property laws that divide property equally between spouses. Other states have an equitable property distribution system, where a judge usually determines allocations. Some states have automatic spousal benefits giving a divorcing husband or wife a certain fraction of the property. This may affect such instruments as wills, insurance and trusts, but pre- and post-nuptial agreements can alter the disposition of property. The legal ramifications are more complex when one person owns a property but another person maintains it, or when a small business must be valued so it can be sold. When couples negotiate, each person should have a lawyer. Steven Spielberg's first wife, actress Amy Irving, got her prenuptial agreement negated because she was not represented by her own lawyer. Heir apparent. Heirs should be psychologically and emotionally prepared for inheriting substantial wealth. Stories abound of people who went from rags to riches to rags. The heir to the Woolworth department store fortune, Barbara Hutton, was 6 when her mother committed suicide. Relatives and nannies raised Hutton, who suffered from low self-esteem. She was never trained to manage money. When she inherited millions at age 21, she gave away jewelry, married 7 times, suffered drug abuse and died poor in 1979. The downside of money is that it affects self-esteem. Often, heirs lack the founder's sense of self-worth. In many cases, the founder fails to tell the heirs the size of the fortune. When the founder, who may have lived modestly, tries to overcompensate by indulging the heirs, they may not be motivated to work, manage their wealth, or improve themselves. They may even feel guilty about being wealthy without any effort, particularly around adults who work to build careers. The founders of wealthy families often pave the way for the demise of their wealth through negligence. In particular, they fail to educate their children about the responsibilities of money. Often, heirs do not know how to use their money sensibly or how to produce any long-term benefit with it. Many people cannot handle the responsibility or freedom that money begets. To prevent this, parents should start discussing the responsibilities of managing money with their children as soon as they are old enough to understand. Children as young as 5 can learn to count money and to distinguish between wanting and needing something. John D. Rockefeller advised his children to divide their allowances into thirds so they could spend some, save some, and give some to charity. Parents should set an example of prudent spending and a consistent work ethic, while pushing their children to be productive. One wealthy family involved its children in volunteer work for the family foundation. The children attended family meetings to learn about the business. During college, they submitted weekly budgets, met with financial advisors, and eventually decided to pursue postgraduate studies. A child's financial education has 10 basic steps. 1. Learn to save. 2. Keep track of your money. 3. Get paid for the work you do. 4. Do not spend frivolously. 5. Learn how to talk about money. 6. Spend within your means. 7. Learn how to make your money grow. 8. Don't be afraid to start your own business. 9. Learn how to manage credit cards. 10. Learn the power of money and how it can affect the world. Wealthy families often feel the need to repay society, generally through charitable giving. Some of America's wealthiest families followed this path. Andrew Carnegie sold his business in 1901 and established the Carnegie Corporation, which funded Carnegie Mellon University, Carnegie Hall, and free libraries around the world. Carnegie had some 50 direct descendants, but they did not inherit lots of money since the bulk of his fortune went to fund the charitable corporation. When senior family members want to leave a large sum to charity, they should tell their families about the decision, since it can create resentment. If you make this decision early and openly, relatives can participate in the discussion and agree on the charity's goals, and on how it will perpetuate the family's name and ideals.